Good evening.
On
This
the
is
other hand, I haven't
Recording in progress.
Good evening. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. There are agendas available in the file pockets near the
We
entrance.
can't hear you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear us?
Well, my microphone's working.
Oh, hold on. I gotta push some buttons over there. Because that hasn't even.
We're going to try this again.
Come on now, Claude.
I can hear you now, Rick.
There we go.
All right. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like Verizon, I know.
And everybody laughed.
Take two. Good evening, everyone. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. There are agendas available in the file pockets near the entrance or online at the City of Waterville's website. All items appearing on the consent agenda are voted on in one motion and vote. Generally, these are routine in nature and do not require discussion. All items listed under unfinished business or new business are voted on separately. First, councilors will be given an opportunity for questions or comments. Once councilors have had an opportunity to speak, citizens will be given an opportunity for comments or questions. Citizens must speak at the podium and identify themselves. Each citizen will be allowed one opportunity to speak and will be limited to 3 minutes. Finally, the councilors will be given another opportunity to speak or comment. Citizens who would like to speak on a topic that does not appear on tonight's agenda will have an opportunity to do so at the end of the meeting under the public comment section of the agenda. And we got a presentation first.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but set it out. Pledge of Allegiance first.
Oh, they've got it.
Yeah.
Pledge allegiance. Awesome.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we're on to our presentation. Yes.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm Joe Reisert, and I'm the president of the Friends of Quarry Road. It's a community nonprofit that works with the city to develop the Quarry Road Recreation Area, which is Waterville's largest municipal park. I don't know if the written report reached you, but just wanted to update you on the activities of our group and the investments we're bringing to the park and to the city. So our group has commissioned a master plan to design further improvements at the area. Those would include ultimately the construction of a lodge, improved parking, and the reopening of the old Alpine operation. It'd be a little expanded from what it used to be. This is a design that we've put together, that our consultants have put together. It represents our vision. We have not yet come to the council for any sort of approval. I'm planning to work with the manager to find the best strategy and to know how to do that. But you know, right now this is just the Friends vision, and I shared some of that with Steve and with you, and so you get an idea of what it looks like. I think the idea is to make the area accessible to everybody in the community, and so there are amenities that are supposed to appeal to a wide audience, right? With a building out there, you're much more able to have warm weather activities. There's included in the design a multi-use paved trail that would be much easier for people to walk on who are past the point of being able to walk on the narrow and steep trails. Would also be suitable for like rollerblading or bicycling or roller skiing. So Friends are paying for the permitting phase, and so that permitting process should begin, I think, in August. Again, that doesn't commit the city to anything, but it does open the door to a world where if the capital construction costs can be raised and if a plan is approved by the city, then the development could go forward. But again, that's being paid for by the Friends with money we raised and not city money. You've probably seen some of the other things that we've developed at the area. We raised the money to get a little rope tow installed at what used to be the base of the old Alpine Hill. It's about a 400-foot run. You get 3 or 4 good turns in, but it's a great place to do some learn to ski. We had a small learn to ski program this winter. There'll be a bigger one next winter. Like all that was paid for by gifts and some in-kind donations, right? The shed was built by Ware Butler as a donation. Friends helped support the disc golf course that's gone in out there. Friends helped raise the money for the ski trail improvements, and there are more improvements to the single track trails being built now. And just say again, what a pleasure it's been to work with Matt Scahan over the years. I mean, he's been involved in the project since the beginning, and it's been a great partnership, and we feel that the area keeps getting better and keeps serving the people of Waterville better, and it's just an honor to be able to help develop this public amenity.
Any questions? Anybody got questions? I like going out there, since I don't have questions. It's great. What you guys have done out there is fantastic. So I'd like to see more of it.
Rebecca.
Oh, Counselor Green.
Well, I just thought I did have a chance to read the report you sent, Joe and friends of Quarry Road, but wondered if you could just share some of the highlights from the statistics you gathered about the use, because I think that's very interesting and important for folks to know.
So thanks. So the try a couple of the highlights. Just in the youth program, there were 168 young people that would be from little kids learning to ski through high school. We sold, or the venue sold, 1,450 day passes and 752 season passes. So the operation currently runs in the black. There were a series of races held at the venue over the season with a total of almost 2,600 participants, right? And many of them were people who came to Waterville, and we hope ate in our restaurants and stayed in our hotels. We think there was a total of about 15,000 skier visits, and this number seems incredible, but knowing how many people are out there and how many hours a lot of them are out there, we calculate over 4,000 volunteer hours went into producing all of that activity. So it brings the community together, and it brings people to Waterville, and anyway, we think it's great. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Joe. I was impressed to see the breakdown of Waterville users and out of town. Clearly, it's bringing in people.
Oh, right. So it's about 60-40 out of town to Waterville. So, yeah.
Thanks. All right. Disclosure of conflict of interest. Does anyone have any conflicts? Seeing none, we're going to move on. Council committees. Councilor Green.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to report that the Housing Committee continues to meet on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. We have our meetings remotely by Zoom. Links are posted on the city website. At our last meeting, we met with the chair of the Comprehensive Plan Commission to discuss how we can work together as the commission does its work of updating the plan, and of course, specifically in our case, the chapter on housing. So that was great. And we've also been discussing several proposals to help improve overall housing stock, including a vacant and abandoned properties ordinance, and that will be coming to council soon. We've also discussed a rental licensing ordinance. Both of these, if passed by council, would require significant additional work from the code department. We've also been exploring the possibility of creating a Waterville land bank based on recent legislation that passed in Augusta, which would be an entity that would be able to help return property to productive use according to the priorities of the community. So it could be housing, it could be commercial property, it could be recreation, depending on the particular needs at that time. So this is a very exciting proposition that we're looking at, and we have the assistance of Robin Stanicki, who helped write the legislation. So we're very excited about that and glad to have her expertise. At our last meeting, we also discussed the increase in evictions that have occurred in recent months in Waterville. And we are looking into more information on why this is happening and what can be done about it. That will be one of the topics at our next meeting, July 6th. So if you're interested, please join us. And again, our information for joining is posted on the city website. But you can also always email me with any questions if you have them. Thanks.
Any other committees? Steve, manager's report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few quick things tonight. The South End paving projects are scheduled to begin sometime this summer and expected to be completed by the end of September. So that's good news on the south end. The contracts are out, the schedules have been set. The contractors met with Public Works last week to lay out their work schedule, and everything looks good at this point. KMD, the finishing touches are being put on that by the contractor, including traffic markings, second seeding of the berm areas, and various other details that sort of loose ends that need to be tied up. So that project is all but complete. And then the final thing I want to report on tonight is that I'm working with a group to plan a festival for the reopening of Main Street. Once the bill grant is done, the people included are the Mid-Maine Chamber, Waterville Creates, Maine DOT, and Colby College. We'll be scheduling music, food by the downtown eateries, and possible scavenger hunt to promote foot traffic through the Main Street businesses. Colby is going to provide a tent similar to the one that they did on Castongway Square when they did the topping off of the Schiff building. And that'll be there for the festivities and in case it rains. That's what I have tonight.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's one other thing. The police department conducted a gun return and disposal program a week or so ago, and they collected 30 firearms and considerable ammunition from people who no longer wanted what they had. They turned those things into the police department, and they will be destroyed. So it was a very good event. The chief tells me that the availability of the event is as important as the number of guns that are returned.
All right. Moving on to the consent agenda.
So moved.
I got a second at Flavia. Patty, can I get a roll call?
Council Morris?
Yes.
Council DeBrito?
Yes.
Council Green?
Muted.
Council Green, you're muted.
I'm a yes.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, we have several city clerks on the call, and I'm just wondering if Tom is with us or not. I know he had to log in remotely as well, but looks like he isn't, so. All right.
Councilor Foss?
Yes.
Councilor Frankie?
Yes,
Councilor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to read the entire agenda by title only.
Second.
Patty, roll call?
Council Morris?
Yes.
Council DeBrito?
Yes.
Council Green?
Yes,
Councilor Foss?
Yes.
Councilor Frankie?
yes,
Councilor McCormick?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0
I'm
opposed.
here as well.
Oh, hi.
Back.
Hi. Just able to get on. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm here as well. I'm doing the best I can. Yep.
The motion is to read by title only, the entire agenda. How would you vote, Counselor Klepak?
Yes. Yes.
you.
Thank you.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right. Moving on to old business, ordinance 126, 2022.
Amend the personnel policy to reflect the Comprehensive Benefit and Salary Study 2022.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Counselor Foss.
Has the monies needed to fund any part of this been put into the budget package as we have it right now?
Yes.
We can't hear you. Got to turn your mic on.
Repeat that, please.
Has the money needed for any part of this study been added to the budget as we have it now?
Yes, for the
be voted
60th
on tonight.
percentile level.
60 percentile? Okay.
Counselor Green.
Well, because we haven't voted on the level recommended by the study, I believe we should postpone this, table this until after the budget has been passed. There were two options presented, if I remember correctly, one at 60% and one at 75%.
Yep.
That's
And
correct.
Okay, right. And so given the many priorities in the budget and the, our attempt to get a flat bottom line and keep taxes as low as possible, we elected to go with 60%, I believe. But until the budget's finalized, we need to hold on passing the policy.
Good. I'll second that.
Patty, can I get a motion on table?
So the motion is to postpone until the final budget vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there any discussion, or shall I take a roll call?
Roll call.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, moving on to order 131, 2022.
Approve Colby College donation Riverwalk surveillance system.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Order 134, 2022.
Approve FAA grant amendments.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? And this is for the, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to explain what this was for to people who may not know, but go ahead.
I was about to make Steve do that. So Steve.
Oh, okay.
See how it rolls?
This is a grant from the FAA that was given to the city to do crack sealing and seal coating at the airport on the main runway and the tarmac parking areas for the aircraft and some of the taxiways. The grant amendment adds $19,000 and change to that grant award to cover eligible items that were necessary to do during the project.
Any questions? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Did we lose him?
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes,
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak, are you there?
Are you muted?
No, he's not muted. Oh, he is now.
Now you're muted.
Patty, can we change his name so we know which one we're
think
looking
he
at?
I don't know which one he is.
I think he's on a phone. Oh, there he
He's
goes.
the bottom.
Who, me?
Yeah,
Yes,
you.
you.
Yes.
There's who he is.
Sorry, yeah, I went through an area of bad connectivity there. I didn't hear anything that was being said.
Neither do we.
We're voting on approving a grant that we got.
Yes,
I was gonna say, just tell them we're getting free money.
Free money.
The vote is 7 in
yes,
favor.
yes, yes.
We're at McDonald's. What do you want?
7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Yes.
Order 136, 2022.
Accept a donation for the Waterville Skate Park project.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion?
Still no Tony Hawk.
We didn't get Tony Hawk,
Too bad.
but the kids are getting a
we
skate
got,
park.
we got the next best.
Just remind us who's the donor?
Matt got that info?
Pop quiz.
Matt has gone.
Who's the donor?
It's a skating group out of
Out of
Augusta.
Augusta,
That has statewide reach. I don't recall the name right now.
There's somebody I
Right.
recognize.
It was a
Okay.
Tony something.
It was-
remember?
They've been
But it
thanked
wasn't Tony Hawk.
Yeah, but
profusely.
it wasn't Tony
It
Hawk.
just wasn't Tony Hawk.
Just wanted to give him credit.
Yeah. Patty, roll call.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yes,
Counselor Green?
Yes,
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
yes,
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to ordinance 140, 2022.
Amend purchasing ordinance.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Steve, give us some info.
You will recall that this item is to append to the existing purchasing ordinance a particular procedure that we would use when spending federal dollars. This is something that is required by the federal government as a process, but it doesn't alter our local process.
Any questions?
Got a question.
Go ahead.
So what are we
Um,
purchasing? So what is that purchase?
We're not purchasing anything right now.
Oh, okay. Just random. Okay.
Counselor Green?
just confirming that this was reviewed by our auditor. Is that correct?
That's correct. And legal counsel.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
yes,
Counselor Green?
Yes,
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
yes,
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to new business. Order 142, 2022.
Appropriation of municipal and school operating budgets for the period of July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
Move to adopt.
Second.
And let the discussion begin.
Here we go.
Crickets? What? There it is. Claude, go ahead, sir.
oh, I think Rebecca was ahead of me on the queue. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Oh, I didn't see the
I
hand.
just think we should start with an overview of what's included in this budget proposal. If you would, Steve?
Catching up to you. As a high-altitude overview, we have revenues from the city of a little over $12 million, from the school department, almost $19 million. We'll have roughly $1.5 million in TIF revenues, and another $17,700,000 from the tax levy. If we were to rest on a tax mill rate of $25.50. Now, there have been a lot of changes since we first brought that to you, And I'll go through those changes briefly. To add to the, to extend from the revenue list, we have a total of city cost of $22.2 million, a TIF financing cost of $1.5 million. So those two numbers on the TIFs balance out. And then we have a county tax of a little over $900,000, showing a total for the city of $24.7 million. The school department cost shows at $28,400,000. The total is $53,143,000. Now remember that that is all at a mill rate of 25.50. At that point, we had a shortfall in the budget of $2.6 million. Since then, we have applied fund balance for a total of about $1.9 million. We've used $165,000 of ARPA funds, and we have increased the mill rate by 50 cents per thousand. That leaves us with a balanced budget. And in doing that, the school department that asked for $1.14 million is included in this budget at $940,000. And we made additional reductions to the fire department EMS budget of $57,000 based on staggering, or rather anticipating when we would be able to hire the necessary staff. So we do have a balanced budget at $26 as a mill rate, a 50-cent increase, and an unassigned fund balance of 12.7%.
That does not include what you're going to put back in it at the end of
Does
the
not
year.
include what?
That doesn't include the surplus from this year's budget.
That's correct.
Okay.
Steve, for the sake of easy numbers, on a $200,000 valuation home, how much is their tax bill going to increase at 26?
On a $200,000 home,
Yes.
that would be about $1,000 a year.
Now, $100 a year.
Right.
I'm sorry, yes, thank you. $100 a year.
Just so we're clear.
Everybody's
Sorry, I was-
temperature just raised a lot right there.
I was back in New Hampshire for a minute there.
We have 100,000 our
Not
house.
so bad.
$100.
$900 just
To
some
translate the,
You should have led with
translate the
that.
50 cents.
I'd like to,
If I may, to translate the 50 cents per thousand, that works out to about 40 cents, $4 per month, which is cheaper than a gallon of gas.
Not by much.
I'd just like to say that for the many years that I've been watching budgets and now voting on budgets, this is the first one we've laughed through.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
You're welcome.
I know.
We can throw things at each other
No.
if it makes you feel better.
No.
Counselor Frankie.
Oh, hey, you, Steve, Mr. Manager, you have just rattled off a bunch of numbers, some of which we talked about last Thursday, some of which I don't think we did talk about last Thursday. But most of the numbers that you rattled off do not appear in the sheet that is included in the agenda. Can you explain how 53 million that we talked about on Thursday ended up being 51 million today?
Yes. The difference, let me catch up to you, please. The differences in the $1.5 million in TIF revenues and expenses, those numbers are not included in the budget order because they are held off to the side in an accounting sense. So that should explain the difference.
Well, let me ask you another question then. is not the tax increment financing revenue included in the tax levy?
Repeat that, please.
Is not the tax increment financing, is that not included in the tax levy?
It is not included in this tax levy.
Well, it's taxes that are gonna be collected. They're gonna segregate them out. So if you've got 19 million down as the tax levy, that includes the TIF money, does it not?
No, the TIF funds make it a little over $20 million. But this is how the budget order has been done for years here. And I asked the same question over the weekend, Counselor, and it was explained to me that the TIF revenues and expenses are not included in the budget order.
Well,
Excuse me for one moment, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we've lost the live stream, so we need to stop the meeting and
I'll make
recreate a
motion to
new
go into
link.
recess for 5 minutes.
I think we'll need to recess, and we're going to need to create a new link and put a link out for
So,
the new.
about 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Thank you.
We gave them all the
Hey,
bad news,
Patty,
now
does
we
that
left them
include
hanging.
me? Do I need to be looking at my email for that link?
Yes, we'll have to create a new, oh no, that's a live stream link, so the meeting is the same, we'll just post a new live stream link. So you're fine.
So I can just sit here.
Yes, I believe so. Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
Here I am.
Clepac?
Clepac, you still here?
Yeah, man.
All right.
Right here in Cleveland.
Back on to order 142, 2022.
We gotta start at the top.
Well, Claude had a question,
Correct. It's on the floor. Claude
Okay.
has a question, and
and Steve's going to answer it for him.
And I have an answer. Perhaps I'm anticipating your next question, Councilor Frankie, but the reason that the TIF revenues and expenses aren't shown on the budget order is that each of the TIFs is a legal commitment made by the city, by the council at the time that adopts the TIF. And that becomes a legal obligation that by accounting practices and perhaps by law, I'm not sure of that, does not get included in the budget order.
I see. On the other hand, the TIF revenue or TIF funds appear all over the budget, from debt service and school funding to economic development appropriations and staff salaries. It just seems a little odd to me.
You're correct in that, and you know that we have one section that we refer to just as the use of TIF funds. And the sheet that we show to you is for informational purposes, so you can see how we're applying the TIF revenues and where those revenues are coming from. Each of the different TIFs is listed, and the amount of money that's collected on each one annually is shown, as well as how much of that money we use against different purposes. And that's a very detailed list that we show you that we've tried in the past couple of years to filter back into the budget to show you where that money impacts the budget. And you all know that we've had difficulty managing the math of the budget by trying to do that. And that's one of the things that we had trouble with again this year. So we're going to have to rethink how we do that again next year.
Let me just ask one follow-up question about the TIF. Do all of those end up in reports to the state about the operation of the various TIF programs?
I don't believe that we've sent any detailed reports to the state. It's more a practice that we keep a record of that in the event that we're audited.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Green.
So last week we heard from the school board, and which requested an additional $405,775, I believe, and it seems that approximately half of that has been included in this budget. Could we just confirm what the number is that's included on this this particular budget that we're discussing?
Are you asking about the $940,000?
Well, I'm really
Yes.
asking specifically about how much of I know we discussed the fact that we could not add $405,000 to our budget for teacher wages. I think that we could meet about half of that obligation and still have a flat budget. But I just wanted to confirm what the number is that we settled on out of the 400,000 that would specifically be earmarked for teacher salaries.
$207,000 rounded.
Okay.
And you'll also want to include in that it's really going to be close to $307,000 because we're taking on the plowing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
Okay.
we've gotten them almost all the way there. They're gonna have to do some stuff on their end.
Right. And
School board's here if you want to ask
Are-
questions.
I don't have any questions, except last time I suggested that perhaps, since the CARES money was being used to fund a position for assistant superintendent, that the school board would consider using some of that money to, in negotiations, to make sure that teachers got the raise that they were hoping for.
It's my understanding that they are not allowed to use the CARES Act money for that.
Not for teacher wages
No.
and salaries?
But it's a huge, I mean, the school budget is a lot like our budget. It's pretty big. And I'm assuming, Eric, you have the money to give the teachers their raises, correct? Like, we're not just giving you this and you're not going to be able to fill the rest of it.
Well, I think you said it best, Jay. We need to do some work in order to do that, but yes.
Okay.
Mayor, we need to team up at the podium.
Can I get you at the podium for that question? Sorry.
So I thought you answered it best, Jay, when you said, you know, we're getting the schools close to what they're asking for. Now they've got to do some work on their end.
Okay.
And while you were discussing it, Paula and I were discussing strategy about what we could do to get them there. I feel pretty, if this goes through as is, I feel pretty confident we'll get them there.
Okay.
Right.
Nope. Was that good, Rebecca, or you have another question?
Yes, I think I think we all agree it's important to get the teachers as close to that 9% as we can. Obviously, we have a lot of competing priorities this year, so just trying to balance them all out, but that's certainly high on our list. Thank you.
High on our list as well, Councilor Green.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else with questions? Members from the public? Oh, go ahead.
Well, so I have an amendment to the budget, which I sent to all of you counselors. And this involves actually using some ARPA funds to fund additional positions in the code department that were requested, but that were not, that did not make it into the regular budget. As I mentioned in my report on the Housing Committee, we have a number of initiatives we're working on right now that we haven't been able to send to council, but if they go through, they would require funding. And this is directly impacting low-income people, and also would help stimulate economic development, which are some of the, well, not the economic development part, but for the ARPA requirements, trying to create more housing and improve the housing stock are the types of things that are associated with the funding for recovery from the pandemic. So that's the rationale of using the ARPA funds. I would propose that we, for 1 year only, use some funds from the ARPA money that we've received to fund the administrative assistant, and a code enforcement officer, and then reassess in the following year. It's possible that some of the revenue that might be generated from the programs could even, pay back the ARPA fund if those programs are effective. So I can read the whole amendment if you'd like.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, just pulling it up. Okay, bear with me. Here we go. So, dear Mayor and Council, I would like to propose the following budget amendment for consideration tonight, given that the Code Department is stretched beyond capacity and is increasingly being called on to address property ordinances and life safety issues, as well as new building permits. I propose funding the positions requested by the department, Administrative Assistant and Code Compliance Inspector, for FY23 only with ARPA funds at a cost of $143,673. According to Dan Bradstreet, the two-person department is already tasked with enforcing multiple Waterville ordinances, and I won't read them all, as well as state and local shoreland zoning law, Maine state plumbing codes, the National Electrical Code, and the Maine Uniform Building and Energy Code. The Code Enforcement Office reviews, oversees, and inspects hundreds of millions of dollars of construction every year throughout the city. They issue approximately 325 permits and respond to over 800 complaints per year, 24,000 requests for information, and perform over 600 inspections of construction projects. This is without any administrative support. Despite adding another code enforcement officer in 2022, the department is still in a reactive position regarding addressing code violations. Using ARPA funds to cover these positions for 1 year would allow the current staff to be proactive about addressing code violations that affect property maintenance and life safety issues affecting the most disproportionately impacted residents, as well as supporting economic development. I contend that adding these positions to the Code Department will greatly assist with the recovery from the economic impacts of COVID, including the current lack of housing units, and ultimately would benefit all the citizens of Waterville.
Any questions? Councilor Foss.
Councilor Green, after the money runs out of the ARPA funds, how do you propose that you're going to pay for these two positions?
Well, it's going to reassess.
Well, right. So I believe that some of this activity will also lead to the institution of a land bank, which would help to pay for this funding and these positions. We have two other positions that are funded this year through ARPA funds, which we have to ask the same question about. But I do believe that the Code Department is one department that has a net gain in their operations right now. So I believe that there would be considerable revenue generated through this activity that would potentially cover the cost of the positions.
Steve, her statement was that code has a positive gain, net gain. Is that a true statement?
I believe it is.
Okay. Thank you.
It's one of the few departments. Councilor Frankie.
And quite frankly, it's not a matter of whether the code enforcement makes money or not. The question is, does the city deserve to have adequate code enforcement to keep its housing up to snuff? And I don't think there's any question about that. The state of housing is deteriorated because we have not had sufficient code enforcement. It's time to get this straightened out.
Anyone else? Oh, Councilor Green.
Yeah, I see that Nancy Sanford has her hand up, and I also have one other comment to make, and that is that this proposal has been put before the ARPA committee informally and the housing committee. I confess I did not think of this until a couple days ago, but I'm concerned that any ordinances that we might pass will not be able to be implemented if we don't have funding for the code department. And that's why we didn't have a formal meeting with the ARPA committee, but they are aware of the proposal and informally have approved.
Councilor Foss.
Everyone's wondering.
Patty, just as a formality question, is this a proper place, not that I'm neither for nor against in the questioning, but is this a proper place for this where we're requesting ARPA funds only, not direct funds out of budgetary?
In theory, it's really not appropriate to be amending the budget because the budget really won't change for
Right.
this year. Won't it be just funded through ARPA, and the proposal would be to amend the, to include it in the budget next year?
Right, to make this, so the proper, just so I'm clear, the proper way to make it would be to make this a resolution all on its own, outside of this discussion.
I would tend to agree with that.
has
Steve?
some input.
You've already put $165,000 or so in the budget from ARPA funds to cover the cost of 2 positions in the police department. It's a matter of how you fund it. What Patty says is correct, but you can do it either way.
Right.
It's your choice.
Okay, all right, I was just making sure we weren't putting the cart before the horse or anything like that, so. Okay.
Anyone else?
Nancy Sanford has her hand up.
I'm still getting counselors taken care of first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What were you saying now?
No, I was just saying, like, so does it make sense to amend this now?
No, we can't. Can we bring in Nancy?
Yes. Nancy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
We can hear you. Go ahead with your question.
Well, I'm Nancy Sanford and I live in Ward 1, although I, at the moment, happen to be on the beautiful coast of Maine. And I just would like to support using ARPA funds for code enforcement because I have had the opportunity to see some of the housing that lower income people in Waterville live in, and some of it's disgusting, and nobody should live in some of the places that I've seen. And I think that it's high time that Waterville have whatever they need to, however many code enforcement folks we need to get a handle on that. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Patty, can I get a roll call on that amendment?
Did you have, oh, no, sorry.
All set?
Yep.
Council Morris?
Yes.
Councilor DeBrito?
Yes.
Councilor Klepak?
Yes.
Councilor Green?
Yes.
Councilor Foss?
Yes for now.
Councilor Frankie?
Yes.
Councilor McCormick?
Yes for now.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right.
Gonna move that as amended?
Oh, Claude.
I would like to propose an amendment. So for 50 years, Waterville has received high-quality ambulance service from Delta at no cost to the taxpayers. Today, the council is being asked to replace Delta with a taxpayer-funded system at a cost of about $1,700,000. A careful consideration should be given to the ramifications of such action before taking such a dramatic change in the mission and structure of the Waterville Fire Department. Therefore, I propose amending the budget to set the fire department appropriation at $3,485,654, the amount proposed by the fire chief on March 3rd, 2022.
Is there a second? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to something else. Anyone else have amendments? Councillor Green.
So I don't have an amendment, but, there's been a lot of discussion about the issue that Councilor Frankie just raised, and including the fact that there was no public hearing to discuss this. And I understand that Chief Essler is prepared to give a slideshow regarding the reasons why he's requesting the additional funding and why the need. So I think we should hear that before we vote.
All right. Chief?
Mr. Mayor, a little bit of a correction on that. This proposal is coming from the city manager through the fire chief through the city manager. I endorse the proposal and sincerely hope that the council sees the benefit in doing what we're suggesting here. I have a presentation that we made at the workshop last week that I need to collaborate with the city clerk to get up on the screen here. Share screen. Who can share? So that's okay? All right.
We're going to get you a slideshow here in a second. Oh, look at that. Put it out to the ether. There it was.
Those that was magic.
This is a proposal from by the administration for the city of Waterville in response to the withdrawal of Delta Ambulance from the 2-year-old agreement that it's had with the city to jointly provide emergency medical services to the population, whether it's residential or otherwise, here in the city and the surrounding communities on a mutual aid basis. The goals that have been set forward for this program within the fire department, first is to maintain the current level of service, and we're talking about carrying forward from this date. The current level of service, as you'll see later on, is 2 full-time ambulances, fully staffed, that run 24/7 throughout the week and throughout the year. The 2 ambulances that I'm referring to are dedicated to Waterville to respond to current and projected emergency call-outs. Those will also continue, we will also continue a working relationship with Delta Ambulance. That'll be on a mutual aid basis. We've approached them about continuing the arrangement that we've had for the past 2 years. We've made several gestures to try to get the relationship to continue to work. Delta has informed us on each occasion that they no longer have sufficient staff to be able to support their agreement with the city, and that's why they're withdrawing. The third goal here is to maintain Waterville Fire and Rescue's capacity to provide adequate fire protection, rescue, and fire prevention services. One of the things that comes out of adding the staff that we're proposing to add is that they are also available to work in fire environments as support people and for EMS support at the fire locations. The fourth goal is to maintain the department's capacity to provide effective fire and EMS mutual aid as a regional partner. You all know that we do have mutual aid agreements with all the municipalities around us, so that when we cannot respond to a call, we seek their assistance and they respond, or they come and occupy our station to take the next call in the event that we continue to be occupied when a call comes in. We do the same for them. And then the final goal is to avoid excessive dependence on fire and EMS mutual aid to cover routine call-outs. meaning that if we are understaffed and under-equipped here in Waterville, we would put an excessive burden on our surrounding communities that we have mutual aid agreements with to continually come in and backfill for Waterville or to be responding to Waterville incidents. The overview of this proposal starts with where we were before 2019. There was one Delta ambulance serving the city full-time with a backup through the Delta organization. From 2019 to 2020, there was a Delta ambulance on a full-time basis and then a Waterville ambulance as a backup to Delta. Then between 2020 and 2022, we had a 24/7 Delta ambulance and a 24/7 Waterville ambulance, and then a second Waterville ambulance in a backup capacity. Then in July 2022, the Delta ambulance is going away, and you can see that it leaves us with a full-time Waterville ambulance and a part-time Waterville ambulance. It's only in a backup capacity because we don't have the staffing to man it on a 24/7 basis. So we're effectively cutting our first and second response in half when Delta leaves in 2 weeks. These things are being done by Delta now. They provide us with 2 Delta EMTs, a paramedic and a vehicle for that paramedic. They provide us with billing and collection services. They also provide us with quality improvement services and training services. When we get to July 1st, all of that goes away, and it all falls on Waterville Fire to add 2 firefighter medics per shift. That's a total of 8. We want to add 2 administrative staff to the department in the form of to manage EMS services and to oversee billing and collections. We also are going to have to perform quality improvement in-house and provide training for firefighters and EMS in-house. We're going to do that with 2 additional staff. I have there's something encroaching on my screen. Those 2 administrative staff are going to be a deputy chief for EMS and then a training officer for both fire and EMS services. Looking ahead, the service demand indicators are an aging population. 911 responses and transports are on the incline. We have local population growth with housing demands and housing growth in the city, as well as college enrollments enlarging. And then we have regional population growth in the developing suburbs around Waterville. And being a service center city, those impacts that we encounter often deal with non-Waterville residents, and they account for a substantial number of calls that we respond to. Here you can see the relationship of the trend curves of fire versus EMS services. The red line on the bottom shows the slope of the trend for fire services. The blue line on the top shows the slope for the trend on EMS services, and you can see that the EMS services are growing at a more rapid rate than the fire services, and those are demands on Waterville Fire. Right now the ratio is 77% EMS and 23% fire. The EMS response growth just in the first 5 months of this year compared to last year is showing a similar trend. Those 2 trend curves are separating, not running parallel or getting closer together. So the number of EMS calls is ever increasing at this stage. Chief Essler will tell you that we estimate doing 4,000 EMS responses this year alone. And we're 2 weeks from the end of the year, so that's a pretty accurate number. Today's staffing includes a fire chief, a deputy chief, 3 firefighters on the fire apparatus, 1 that we no longer have or use.
That's minimum staffing.
The 3 is minimum staffing, right? Help me out.
5 is minimum staffing, and what the circle indicates on that 6th person is minimum staffing requirement. So when somebody calls in sick or somebody's on vacation, we will drop to 5 people at the station.
Okay. And over here, we staff, that's our management team, and we staff the EMS operation with 2 Waterville firefighter EMTs and 2 Delta EMTs. Sometimes both or 1 are paramedics, but there's at least 1 paramedic in each of those teams. Moving forward, here's what we had in that previous slide showing what happens on July 1st. After July 1st, we're proposing that we should have 1 full-time fire department ambulance, 1 in reserve from Delta on a mutual aid basis. That's not reserve, that's actually mutual aid. A 2nd full-time Waterville Fire Department ambulance, and then a 3rd Waterville ambulance, which we already have, standing in reserve to handle overflow or necessary interfacility transfers. That 3rd ambulance would be staffed with callback firefighters who would be paid at a 3-hour minimum on an overtime basis. And what we've found in experience is that when we bring firefighters in to do that work, that the billing that we do for those ambulance services is roughly 3 to 4 times the cost of providing them. So our staffing plan, today we have what we've already talked about, and then July 22, we're proposing that we continue with the chief and deputy chief, that we continue with the existing Waterville firefighter and EMT staffing, that we add 2 more Waterville firefighter EMTs, a deputy chief for EMS, and a training officer that would do both fire and EMS. These 2 firefighter, actually they're medics or paramedics or firefighter EMTs. We have a number of different classifications. That's 2 people per shift. We have 4 shifts as a result of our new collective bargaining agreement. So those 2 people multiply out to 8. The 2 that you see up in the management level total 10 new personnel. Chief, can you take over here?
Yeah, so this screen right here indicates what we have for staffing today. So you can see that we run a battalion chief in a small utility vehicle. That's a supervisor that can bounce between calls if necessary. We run 2 fire trucks. One of them is staffed with 1 firefighter. The second one is staffed with 2 firefighters. The indication in red is that minimum staffing. So again, we run at minimum staffing levels regularly, so oftentimes we have to split up our engine or have our battalion chief assigned to the tower truck. And then we have 2 ambulances that are staffed 24/7 with 1 firefighter and 1 Delta provider on each of those ambulances. So that's pretty much how we run every day. The engine will back up the ambulances on critical calls. So for example, if there's a cardiac arrest, you'll not only get an ambulance, but you'll get an engine with 2 people on it as well immediately. So, if Delta is to withdraw, which that is the plan, the future, without adding staffing, would literally be taking our firefighters, moving them to the engines, and that would not be a good situation. So the future, the bottom slide, is what we are hoping to achieve with this goal, is just simply to maintain this same level of service that we have today.
Chief, your training officer, are you going to be able to offer those services to surrounding communities for, is it working? Is it working? Is it on? Can you guys hear me up back? Okay. Can you elaborate if you've thought about the training officer offering services to the surrounding communities later down the road at a service fee?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things about Waterville Fire Department is we're already a regional trainer as it relates to the fire service. We conduct an annual in-house fire academy, which our current firefighters oversee and run, and we charge surrounding communities for those services at which we provide. So Waterville Fire is essentially the feeder system for all of the area departments around us. That training officer will be assigned not only to that program, they'll be assigned as a liaison to the Mid-Maine Technical Center to help develop our youth program, and we will consider doing additional fire classes to generate revenue with that position. Oh, sorry, this slide is just an example. If we did nothing and we did not add any staff, you can see that we'd take firefighters off in the fire engines, and we're on track to do about 1,000 fire calls this year, which is about 2.73 fire calls per day. That is a very ineffective, inefficient system. We would not be able to provide mutual aid, and our fire protection at the end of the day would be significantly reduced. So my recommendation as we move forward has to be that we consider adding personnel in order to maintain the current level of service, both fire and EMS.
The bottom line on this proposal is as follows. The EMS program projected cost is $1.7 million, as we've spoken about. The projected revenue is $1.25 million. That gives us a net program cost of just under $500,000. When we take away, however, the projected net cost that was already in the budget for EMS services of $167,000, it brings us down to a net program increase in cost of $305,000.
Chief, how many full-time employees did you have 2 years ago?
I believe 18.
So essentially one full-time person for every 1,000 people that live in our city, or thereabouts. How many people visit our city throughout the day?
It's estimated that over 30,000 increase in daytime population.
It's about double.
Yep.
Once we're done with this program, if it works the way you intend it to, how many full-time employees will you have?
I'd have to do the math off the top of my head, but it's almost double.
So essentially 2 people for every 1,000 that we have in the city at a cost of $305,000.
Correct. One of the things that was in the newspaper was that the cost of 8 personnel plus our 2 administrators was $1.7 million, and the $1.7 million is a reflection of 18 personnel. That's the entire EMS program in itself. So that was one thing I did want to point out.
So you said 77, essentially 78% for EMS, 22% for fire?
As far as the call volume?
Yeah, well,
that is correct, yeah.
What do we spend on fire protection?
Stand by. $2.7 million.
So the program in its entirety will cost us 1.7, and that's 80% of what you do. And we spend more on fire protection, which is 20% of what you do.
That is correct. That's been historical here in the city, and I do want to say that there are significant fires that cause a significant amount of dollar value in destruction each year, which is why the city has always invested in strong fire protection to keep our businesses upright. For example, Hutamaki. You know, if Hutamaki was to suffer a devastating fire, we would be 500 employees less. So we've had a significant investment in fire protection over the years, yes.
I just wanted to put that into perspective. Anyone else? Anyone from the public? Patty, can I get a roll call on the budget?
I don't believe we've moved it as amended.
Oh, sorry.
Move as amended.
Second.
Now I'll take a roll call.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak? Counselor Klepak? Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
No,
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yes, can you not hear me?
We can
I
now.
did
We
not.
can now.
Yes.
Thank
yes.
you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. The
Are
vote
you-
is 6 in favor
Okay.
and 1 opposed.
All right. Moving on to Resolution 143, 2022.
Approve airport ground lease lot 1B.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Steve, can I get some information on this?
A little bit of background.
Yeah.
We have been renting or leasing footprints for hangars at the airport for quite some time now, and this is just the next one to come along. It is across the tarmac from the terminal building and abuts right up against another hangar that's over there. The owner wants to build the hangar and use it for personal use. The rate that we charge is 15 cents per square foot. 15 cents per square foot. That was adopted by the council by resolution in 2018. And I think we're at a point right now where we want to do another survey of competing airports to see if we're at market rates at this point. And I would ask that you postpone consideration of this until the
So we can get some more
next
money for
regular
it?
council meeting.
So moved.
Second. No.
Yeah, we've had this discussion. 15 cents is way too low.
Several times.
Okay. We got
By the
some-
way, that's
Yeah,
that's
we're good.
for this particular hangar, it would be $500 a year.
Yeah.
We're just waiting on you, Mayor.
Patty, get a roll call on that.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
I'm sorry, this is a vote to,
To
Table.
postpone to the next council meeting.
okay, I'm a yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
yes,
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to Resolution 144, 2022.
Renewal of special amusement permit to Jody Langley doing business as Shapery.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
yes,
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to Resolution 145, 2022.
Canvassing of votes and determination of the result of the primary election held on June 14, 2022.
Move to adopt.
Second.
And
Can we get the info? Oh, Claude, go ahead.
I just want to express a thank you on behalf of the council to the clerk and the folks that run our elections. There's been a lot of talk nationally about the stress that election workers are starting to feel, and I just want our election workers to know that they have our full support. Thank you.
Here, here.
Thank you, Claude.
Here.
Go ahead, Patty.
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Yes.
Counsel Klepak,
Yes.
Counsel Green,
Yes.
Counsel Foss,
Yes.
Counsel Frankie,
Yes.
Counsel McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, moving on to Resolution 146, 2022.
Authorize the city manager to execute a temporary easement agreement with Maine DOT.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion?
Could we get an explanation of this?
Steve?
This is a temporary easement in relation to the replacement of the Taconic Bridge. The state contractors need a space to stage their equipment and their materials and supplies. This space is about half of the parking lot adjacent to the Lockwood Hotel. The parking lot is currently being leased from the city by Colby College, and I'll be coming back to you with an amendment to that lease to lower the rental fee while the easement is in place. And the state is paying us $26,000 to rent the property for 3 years. We should have them rent hangar pads.
Are we gonna have a net positive? Like, you're not gonna lose money by taking it away
No.
from, okay. Anyone else? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Yes.
Counsel Klepak, Counsel Klepak,
Come on, guy, you asked the question.
Yes. Yes. Can you get
We got you.
Counsel Green,
Yes.
Counsel Foss,
Yes.
Counsel Frankie,
Yes.
Counsel McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to public comment section of the evening. If anybody wants to talk about something that we didn't talk about during the meeting, now's the time. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Scott Beal. I'm in Ward 6. I just want to encourage the council to continue to support the school budget request. There's been a lot of money invested in the city over the years. I personally believe that we need to consider investing more in our school system. I heard you talking with the superintendent about how he made a request and you came back and you negotiated. We really need to get the superintendent in the habit of asking for what they really need, and then I would encourage the city council to support that. Now, I realize y'all are doing a wonderful service for the community. You've got an impossible task. You've got more needs than you have resources. But I think for the long-term vision of the city, we have got to improve our school system. We have got to have parents want to come to this community to live, and it's very difficult to do with inadequate funding. The school system is also in the process of hiring a new superintendent. I think it would be, we should consider maintaining the funding that the schools requested so that the new superintendent will be able to hit the ground running. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Patty, do we have anybody online?
No hands raised.
All right, I'm going to move on to council comments.
Steve, a couple of days ago, you and I talked about an incident regarding our noise ordinance or from 7 to 7. What's the outcome of that, or have you had a chance to investigate that?
I've instructed the code enforcement department to be out on the scene of that issue.
Okay.
At the time or earlier than you reported it in the morning, to determine whether or not it was happening today or tomorrow when they get there,
Okay.
and to at least instruct the people on the noise ordinance or take further action if that's warranted.
10-4, thank you.
Councilor Frankie.
I just want to note that yesterday was the holiday celebrating Juneteenth, which was the day that the last vestige of the Confederacy was informed that the slaves had been freed by the Emancipation Proclamation. We don't do a whole lot of talking about the Civil War anymore. It was more than 150 years ago. But I would like to point out that there were 400 men from Waterville who volunteered to fight to save the Union and to end slavery. And more than 100 of those young men died in that war. While Juneteenth is definitely a celebration day for to remind us of the end of slavery, it also, I think, should be a reminder of the contribution of the young men from this area to end slavery 150 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other counselors?
Could I make a comment?
Yep, good. So close.
I just wanted to note that the Maine CDC, I know people are probably not happy about the weather that you're experiencing in Maine, even though I haven't been around in Maine to experience a whole lot of it this past few weeks. But due to the colder, cooler weather that you're experiencing, the Maine CDC has been reporting finding brown tail moth caterpillars in their traps throughout the state that have been inoculated with the Entomophaga illicea, the pathogenic fungus that kills the brown tail moth. So the bottom line is that's very good news. And if we can have a repeat performance of this kind of weather next year and even better for 2 more years, then we have hopes of being able to really push the moth out of our region once and for all, which is something that no amount of municipal spending is going to be able to achieve without those kind of weather patterns. That, and then to recognize as another holiday, happy solstice, everybody. I hope to see you soon. I'll be back in Maine soon.
And with that, a motion to adjourn.
Second.
You what?
I think I owe somebody lunch. Hey, Sam.